What is an educational service district? Well, today I'll be introducing you to the North Central Educational Service Districts. From services to programs, the NCESD has no shortage of comprehensive strategies to offer educators and schools across our region. I'm Jenny Rojanasatian, your host on Network TV, and joining me in just a few minutes are three guests from the NCESD to talk about the wide array of programs, services, and support they provide to 29 school districts in North Central Washington, including districts in Chelan, Douglas, Grant, and Okanogan counties. The service district provides professional and timely tools to meet the needs of individual schools and districts, as well as a reliable point of education-related information for the communities they serve. The ESD is committed to working with local school districts to create equitable and inclusive learning environments for all students. They believe in the power of education to transform lives and are dedicated to helping every youth in our region reach their full potential. Joining me in the network studio will be Julia O'Donnell, Pete Phillips, and Stefan Troutman. They're here to talk about the incredible work they do serving the K-12 education system across the region. As the ESD has such a long list of expansive programs, though, today's episode will primarily focus in two areas: education technology and K-12, including information on the Cyber Meetups, which are happening across 3 locations in our region every month. The Cyber Meetups feature guest speakers, presentations, and discussions on various topics related to cybersecurity, including best practices for online safety, cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities, emerging technologies, and more. These meetups are designed not just for education, but for professionals and individuals interested in learning more about cybersecurity, providing a space to share knowledge and ideas and network with other like-minded individuals. As a bonus, these events are free and open for anyone in North Central Washington region to attend. Don't go too far. I'll be right back in the studio with our friends from North Central Education Service District. And welcome to the first part of Network TV today. Really excited to have Julia O'Donnell and Pete Phillips on air. Julia, you're a first timer on Network TV. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. Pete, you've been on before, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Excited to have you both.
Yep.
Pete, I'd love to kick off to you first to just maybe briefly introduce yourself and what your role is at the ESD.
Yeah, you bet. I am the Executive Director of Technology, which is a very large umbrella at the ESD as we support 29 school districts. STEM, CTE, Career Connect Learning, our IT shop, which we're going to talk about today, mostly IT stuff, and other things. But yeah, technology is the hat that I wear at the ESD.
Excellent. And as I mentioned in my intro, the ESD does so many different things. I mean, we could dedicate a TV show to the work that's happening there.
For sure.
So thank you for your work there. Julia, what about you? What is your role at the ESD?
I'm a systems engineer at the ESD. I've been there for almost 12 years now.
Yep.
Pete hired me way back when, initially to be a desktop technician. So I was the boots on the ground, as we call it, everything that you can see and touch.
Okay.
So computers, peripherals, pen printers, just keeping those things up to date and secure. I moved to the systems team about 10 years ago, which is where I've been since. So my current role is supporting all the things that you can't see and touch. So servers, firewalls, content filters, antivirus solutions, email security, all the stuff that keeps the network running.
A very important critical system stuff that keep our networks running. So tell us a little bit, we're going to dive into cybersecurity, but maybe Pete, I can start with you. You have a suite of technology you're managing internally for the ESD, but you're also managing that for schools who don't have the resources to have a technology team on staff. What does that look like?
Yeah, correct. So we have about 180 staff at the ESD. So we manage those devices and those people and the hardware behind the scenes, as well as helping with 29 school districts that is across the board on our level of IT support. But mostly those middle to small schools don't have someone that has the expertise like we do at the ESD and is able to keep up on the training And cybersecurity is so important for our school districts to keep our students and our staff safe, the data safe. And education is becoming one of those sectors that's climbing up the list as far as the risk for cybersecurity. They are under attack, and these attacks are coming every day from new locations, new directions, right? Different ways to hack in to get our data.
Julie, I'll turn to you. Can you, cybersecurity is a word that's now common language, but someone doesn't really understand. What does cybersecurity mean?
That's a really big question.
Yes.
It has a huge answer.
Okay.
I think that a good summary is that cybersecurity is maintaining the integrity and security of our computer and network systems by preventing unauthorized access into them.
Okay. Keeping those in who need to be and those
yes.
out. We often think about, go back to your statement about education being at risk. We often think about the banks, the big corporate 500 companies, but there's a lot of proprietary and sensitive information inside of education when you think about the thousands of students and administrators being served. Tell us a little bit about some of the work you do to create safety for our in cybersecurity for our schools.
Sure.
Yeah.
So part of our job is to ensure that staff and students are safe, not only when they're in their networks, but also when they're at home on our devices. So in network, we've got things in place like firewalls that sit on the edge of a network that prevent anyone, the staff, student, whoever is on our network from going out to those devices those websites where they might download like a malware.
Okay.
Or something like that. The firewall also will prevent the bad guys from coming into our network. So we have that in place. But then when those kiddos go home and they have their Chromebooks, we also have to protect them there. So then we have content filtering in place. And for staff members, we have VPNs that actually route all their traffic back through our network and through our firewalls. We have email security, trying to do our very best to keep those bad actors from phishing our users. We've got antivirus solutions that just in case something gets through, we have that extra layer of security. Two-factor authentication is huge, so we're making sure that we have that conversation everywhere that we can and encourage our districts to go that route. So just lots of different layers of protection.
Very dynamic.
Yes.
It's not a one-stop solution. And I think, at least for myself, 15 years ago, I always just thought, well, I'll download the antivirus software on my computer and I'm done, right? It'll block everything, but it's much more, you need to be much more robust than that.
Sure, and cybersecurity is not just an IT problem, and I think that's something that is so important. Everybody who accesses the internet on any device, so any person, even with a cell phone, you need to be thinking cybersecurity, right? You need to have a security mindset and pause before you click that link in an email or give away your credentials if somebody's asking for them.
That's a great transition for you, Pete. Cybersecurity is everywhere, and it's not just for IT professionals. So tell me a little bit about the Cyber Meetups and why the ESD is invested in education outside of just schools. Or along with schools into cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. Cybersecurity is something that we have to take on a personal level for our devices. Like Julia was talking about at home with our computers, we see phishing as being the biggest scam right now, where we get these emails from who knows where that are faking the content and their identity and trying to get us to give that information away. And so with our cyber meetups, what we're doing is kind of bridging the educational community. Thanks to Microsoft as a partner and the Tech Alliance as a partner, we're able to bring in education and business and kind of merge this user group to create this community of cybersecurity conversation. So we're really hitting all facets of cybersecurity with these meetings that happen monthly. And everyone's invited. If you're interested, you can check out our website and attend these meetings that are once a month on Wednesdays at the ESD. But we're just trying to continue that conversation and really build a cohort that can bounce ideas off of each other as you're providing services for your business or for a school district. We're coming together to share the love of cybersecurity.
And it's not something that's being done just one time a year because you can't anymore, right? The conversation is so big and so ongoing. Julia, maybe you can highlight a few of the different topic areas that you've seen happen through cyber meetups or through the education that ESD has done over the last year.
Sure. Boy, we've touched on everything from the importance of offsite backups for data recovery to password management to phishing. We bring in experts in the area to come and speak, and they speak for about 15 minutes, and no, 30, 45 minutes. And then we have a time for questions and then also networking, which has been huge because here are all of these professionals or business leaders and nobody's really sure of the right answers. And so we're able to bounce ideas off of each other and really work together to come up with some security standards that could be community-wide.
I think that's so important. You know, going back to the smaller school districts that, Pete, that you've talked about earlier, often business organizations don't have large tech teams because they're not big enough to. So a small business of 10 to 20 employees can't have a full-time cybersecurity professional, right? So building that community of learning or opportunities just for an interested community member to attend.
Yeah, totally. I think that giving these folks that don't have the time or the expertise the resources, I mean, that's what this is all about. Giving them the resources, whether it's something that they can just get for free on the web or a service from a company that provides this cybersecurity type of service, giving them the tools they need to go back and protect their company is what these meetings are all about.
Now I want to plug, there's the monthly events, but you also are working on an event this fall. Can you tell me a little bit about the event you're planning?
Yeah, you bet. So this will be our second annual Cybersecurity Summit. We started last February and then decided to move it to or a year and a half ago, February. We decided to skip this February and go to October, which is Cybersecurity Month, National Cybersecurity Month. So this event has multiple partners. It's a full day in downtown Wenatchee that we're going to bring in different sessions, different speakers and keynotes. So it'll be a chance to network with hopefully around 100 folks from the area and out of our area. We're getting some interest there. But just a chance to spend all day learning about cybersecurity, what the latest threats are, and how to stay protected.
And for those who are educators attending, I imagine this is a professional development opportunity as well for them to extend their learning in technology.
Absolutely, yeah. Both the monthly event and the Cybersecurity Summit will be for educators and private business,
Wonderful.
For public business.
Well, thank you both for coming in to share about cybersecurity. We have to head out to a commercial break, but I want to encourage you to go to the ESD website, join the cyber meetups where you can meet with them both. We'll don't go too far. We'll be right back here on air. Welcome back to part 2 of Network TV. Excited to introduce another guest from the North Central Education Service District, Stefan Troutman. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with Pete and Julia in the first part of the episode, but now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about ed tech.
Yes.
Right? Okay,
Yes.
well first I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience today. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Stefan Troutman, and I have worked at the ESD now for about a year and a half. It's awesome. I love them. It's great being there. And my job is to blend best teaching practices with technology in the classroom. So where you heard from Pete and Julia, and they're much more of like the IT side, well, Pete's kind of everything.
Yes.
But that gets confused a lot when my job gets introduced. Like I like to tell people one year my mother-in-law put in, oh man, I hope she's not watching this. Yeah. She put in the Christmas card that I was selling Chromebooks, and that's not what I do. Okay. It's teaching teachers how to use tech and blend that with all the great teaching they're already doing.
Why do teachers need support in learning about technology?
No one went through a pre-service program and was taught how to use tech in the classroom because it changes so fast, right? Like I remember I graduated from Whitworth, and which was a great school and a great program, great teaching program, but my ed tech instruction for here's how to teach was use a document camera, like put the paper under the document camera. And that most classrooms don't even have a document camera anymore. And that was not that long ago. Yeah. So teachers weren't given that in pre-service instruction. And I would argue to say that there's not even a real comprehensive in a lot of models now for teachers going through that, even with the tech we have. So that the job training is really kind of my role, and things change so fast. There's such a variety of needs that those supports really do need to be adaptive, and that's what I do.
What does it look like to help train teachers? What does that mean for someone's like, okay, you train the teachers on tech? Is it classes? Is it one-on-one support? What does that look like?
All of the above.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really a smattering of everything because there are so many districts in our region. There's 29 of them. Each of them have unique needs, and so it's a lot of, again, being adaptive and being very intentional and purposeful and making sure those services are relevant to their community and their schools. And so sometimes it's professional development, get a bunch of teachers together in a room and we're going to do some training. Sometimes it's online, like asynchronous stuff. My favorite is a blend of those where you can kind of really access what all of those tools have to offer. So like I can consume a little bit, but then I can do the cool stuff hands-on. And some of it's one-on-one, professional learning communities. A lot of teachers work together, and so like I like to work and coach with those teachers. And all of that starts with developing a relationship with those teachers, getting your foot in the door, and then through a conversation figuring out what they need.
So very dynamic.
Yes.
Very dynamic. Now tell me a little bit, you just touched on it. Technology looks very different at each school, and probably each school district, and then each school probably within that. What does it look like right now in the wake of the pandemic?
Yeah, so the pandemic was a blessing in that very few ways, but in that it really upskilled a lot of teachers and then highlighted the lack of access that teachers had and schools had when it came to physically having technology in the classroom. Schools across the country were woefully behind on getting devices into students' hands when working with those tools is a skill they have to have leaving school. And so COVID got those devices in the hands, and now the gap there is teachers have tech, but it's that consistent and ongoing high quality professional development and support. And so it's nice that like we've been upskilled with these basic tech skills, and now the real work gets to start after that. Yeah.
Like you said, it brought out the minimum standard as far as like hardware, I guess, across that we need to have devices and students need to have devices, but there's so much more to learning digital literacy than just having the actual device itself.
For sure. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've seen really help accessibility and inclusivity in terms of technology?
Yeah, so there's a wide variety of like apps and tools, and honestly just getting, whether schools are using Google tools or Microsoft tools, there's a lot of things that are built in, screen readers, speech-to-text opportunities where you can speak into it. I just did some guest teaching, some model teaching with at an elementary school in town where we got all of their kids using speech-to-text software where if typing's a barrier or writing's a barrier, and we just got to get those thoughts out of the kids' heads, we'll just get them on a microphone and let them talk, you know? And so that's a huge one. But also students who are struggling to read or like I'm not the fastest reader myself, and so having things read out to me while I have the text in front of me, lifesaver. And so many of those things are just built into the tools that we have. You don't need anything else that's super special. And sometimes my role is just going into a classroom like I did last week and saying, here's how you use it, here's how you access it, now let me show your kids how to use it. And that can really make a difference.
I love hearing about the transformative stories with technology and how it helps youth learn in the way that meets their needs. Because I think there's also now been a technology aversion in our community, right? Like kids are on devices too much, but it's more dynamic than that. Like devices can really help the learning environment. Yeah.
And I like to, I get a lot of pushback as an ed tech coach about screen time. Right? Like I don't want my kids on, and I've got a 4-year-old. I don't want him on the iPad 24/7. Right. And what I try to coach teachers and parents and community members through is there's a difference between consumption and creation. And where we want our students is in that creation mode. If they're just sitting on their computers all day long watching YouTube videos, there might be some learning there, but it's not interactive. What we want is that very intentional consumption of information, and then we want to make our kids powerful communicators, critical consumers of information, and that means using technology at appropriate times to get them doing things, so creating new and novel things. And now the aversion for a lot of teachers is like AI in the classroom. Right? So like ChatGPT has really blown up the ed tech world just since December. And the dirty little secret is AI's been around for a while. It's in our lives every single day, and now the current struggle is what do we do with it? And no one knows, and for me, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the Tech Alliance, we're very excited about ChatGPT in terms of writing and looking at things. But there's definitely different models of thought, probably across K-12 and the university structure of how we use these tools successfully. What advice would you give maybe to, and I think you just hit a little bit on it, the creation versus consumption, but what would your advice be to a school administrator or an educator who maybe is not integrating a lot of technology right now? They're still feeling a little uneasy or at a loss of how to do it.
Call me. Right? That's the big one, right? Because tech is just a tool. So my advice to teachers and administrators and school districts is don't be afraid of it. Don't feel like you have to know how to do everything with it. My favorite activity to do with students is I go into a classroom, I give them a tool that I use all the time, give them 10 minutes to play with it, and every single time I learn something new about the tool, because this is my job and it consumes my world, but I don't know everything there is to know about it. And oftentimes that's our hang up. As educators, we feel like we need to always be the authority in the room, and we always need to be the holder of knowledge. That's not the way the world works anymore. Is when kids have access to the technology, the real question is, what do we do? How do we facilitate their learning and make them those critical consumers? And so, one, call me, but also jump in, go for it, and then don't be afraid to fail. Because we say all the time as teachers, kids learn from failure. And we have to model that. How do we fail and recover if that's what we really want our students to do?
I love that advice and philosophy, just in general, about learning to fail and exploring. What are things in technology that you're most excited about, how it's changing the classroom? I mean, in the next 5 years maybe too.
AI is the big one, right? And so I'll throw that out there because I don't know much about it, but that's the big game changer right now. I mean, they're talking about this being like pre and post cell phone style revolution. Like it's only at a point right now where it's the worst we're ever going to see it. It's just going to get better, right? And so we can't ignore it. We can't block it. AI won't replace your job. People who know how to use AI will, right? And so that's what we need to be teaching.
That's the mentality, yes. Yeah.
And so it does call into a lot of questions. It's not nearly that simple. So that's what I'm really excited about. But on a more day-to-day and something that's more accessible, video and audio, there's so much power in getting kids to talk. That student discourse where kids are talking to each other and thinking and reasoning in the classroom, that is the most powerful, that's research-backed. That's the most powerful thing you can be doing in the classroom. There's no better conduit than like audio and video. And every single device we give kids will record audio, will record video for free in a way that is accessible and can be meaningful and can be incredibly powerful. And so that's not a super high bar to jump over.
Right, not a super tech complication.
Yeah, push a button and you're going. And kids are doing it all the time with their cell phones anyways, but it's so much different when it's done purposefully and academically. So anything you can do that's visual, anything you can do that gets kids talking, that's what I'm really excited about.
I love your passion. It's so fun to chat with you. How do people find you?
The website.
And learn more. Okay.
Yeah, so go to the ESD website, look for EdTech. I'm not sure if it's spitting my email out, but Stefan T, S-T-E-F-A-N-T at NCESD. That's me. But all of my contact information is on the ESD website, and there's a ton of other really good stuff there as well. And so a lot of what I'm doing can be found there.